Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome today, Wednesday, March 10th. Ivy Tech Student Life Office and our Ivy Tech Fort Wayne Diversity Council is really pleased today to offer this event to you, the Women of Color in Politics event that and why it's important. Student Life and Campus Activities Board is partnering with the Diversity Council today to bring you this event, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Tracy Davis. She is going to moderate today, and she will be introducing our panelists.
Thank you so much to everyone that is able to join us today. First, I would like to inform you that Ivy Tech Community College, we did extend invitations for participation to today's event to individuals of both the Republican and Democratic Party. The individuals that were able, according to their schedules, are here with us. And so we thank them for their participation and hope you enjoy today's event. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. And on behalf of Ivy Tech Fort Wayne campus, the Diversity Council, under the guidance of Ms. Dr. Joanne Alvarez, we thank you for joining us, and we think we have a great program. We hope to learn a lot and share some perspective from some amazing women. A little bit about myself. I am Director of Community Engagement for anyone. It looks like we're all friends and family here so far. So I've been with the college for 6 years and love everything that I'm doing. And I've had an opportunity to work with Ms. Washington very closely, Ms. Campbell, and have known Ms. Jones for a long time. So I'm excited to talk to you all today. And so we'll get started. So if you could, each of our guest panelists, if you could just introduce yourself. We'll start with Ms. Sheila Curry Campbell because you are the first tile on my screen. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are and why you're here.
Good morning. Well, good afternoon. I guess it's 12 now. My name is Sheila Curry Campbell. I'm a longtime resident of Allen County. I serve you as your first district county councilwoman, and most recently elected as the vice chair of the Allen County Democratic Party and past president of the local NAACP. And thank you for this opportunity today.
Thank you very much. Ms. Washington.
Hi, I'm Danita Washington. I am the Adams Township trustee. I'm super excited. Former Ivy Tech student as well, and so alum, and just excited to be here. I've been in office, I'm going into my third year, and new things are happening, so I'm super excited to just be invited and humbled to be at the table with great women. So thank you for the invitation.
And Miss Regina Jones.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for having me. I am Regina Friesen Jones, and I am a wife and mother of 3 beautiful children and 1 grandchild. I also own and operate a social service agency, Hands-On Services of Indiana. Thank you much for having me.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. So we will get started right into our questions. And as our guest, feel free to ask any questions at any time. We want this to be an organic, two-way conversation between our panelists and individuals that have joined us. So ladies, can you tell us why you chose to run for a political office position, and what did you learn from that experience? We'll start with you, Ms. Curry, Sheila Curry Campbell.
Well, actually, my coming into office was unique. Sharon Tucker previously held the 1st district position, and she ran for 6th district, which left a vacancy in the 1st district. And so when that happens, the Democratic Party actually holds that seat. And so they have a caucus within that district, the 1st district. And so I was caucus in, voted by the committee chairs and precinct captains.
Okay, so can you explain to us a little bit about what the caucus means, that the position was vacant and you were essentially nominated to hold the position in the interim? Is that what caucus means?
Well, basically the caucus, they're voting delegates within the Democratic Party. And so because the term was not completed, it left that seat vacant. So it
Okay.
actually belonged to the Democratic Party.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're
Ms.
welcome.
Ms. Washington.
Yes, I ran for office due to life experiences, actually. I tell people all the time, working in the school system and having to always assist and help people get services. And in 2015, I had a house fire and lost everything. And it was that moment that I knew. I said, okay, I attempted via phone to visit a space and was offended by the behavior of people who were designed to serve. And I thought, man, I'm educated. I've worked all my life. If I'm treated this way when I walk in the door, I can't even fathom the people who are treated this way, who don't have all of those credentials. And so it kind of pursued me to a conversation with Sharon Tucker, Dr. Quentin Dixie, and they kept saying you would be a great trustee. And so I had heard of it. Jim Winters was one. I knew him in my era when I was younger. And Wayne Township was a very active program. My boys played Wayne Township basketball. And so I started doing a little research, and I actually went and put my name in the hat 30 minutes before it had to be submitted. I literally did not tell anyone. I didn't tell anyone except Sharon and Dr. Quentin Dixie. I didn't tell my mom. And after I did it, I literally thought, what have I done? What have I put myself through? And so that's my why. My why was, my own experience is that people will mishandle and mistreat those who they deem need them, even though they don't understand it's a service job. And so that is why I ran for office.
Thank you. Ms. Regina.
For me, there's no one reason. Over the years, I've worked with local officials on their campaign. I've also done voter registration and attended seminars on how to run a campaign. I also work in social service. So for me, I seen the disparity and it was good timing. I work with a lot of youth that come from underserved families or either have an IEP. So when the pandemic hit, it was like, it was really hard on these families. Timing was right. And I thought this was a good opportunity to, help others.
Tracy, because I didn't answer the second part. You said, what did I learn from it? The one thing I'll say that I learned is be prepared. Because I just jumped in. And the one thing that I think that I learned is that be prepared, learn the office that you're going to run for, know all of the ins and outs. Like I knew that there was a fire department piece to my job, but I didn't understand how entrenched it was. And so going in, I got excited about the run and had people out walking and knocking on doors. But when I won and got set in that office, I wasn't as prepared as I could have been. And so I'm very authentic and honest with people about that. And so thank God for teamwork, people who came alongside me, because people who leave the office sometime aren't always going to come back and help you. It's nice when the interchange happens, but it doesn't always happen that way. And so for me, I would say learn the office, learn the ins and outs of it in its totality if you're going to run.
I echo what Ms. Washington is saying as well.
Yes, definitely a lot of reading.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ms. Curry Campbell. That leads us to our next question, because how would an individual prepare themselves if they were considering to run for a public office?
Yeah, doing the research, Ms. Washington hit it right home. I mean, it's so much that you don't know until you sit in that seat. With the county in particular, there is a lot of literature. There's so many different parts of the county. There's so many pieces of the puzzle that you just need to understand. So just reading and understanding and asking questions, asking the important questions. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. I saw a question in the chat. Miss Laura Overton, Miss Washington, do you mentor others who want to hold office so this doesn't happen to them? And I would pose that question to all three of our panelists. Do you mentor individuals that are interested in a public office so that they can walk into the positions better prepared?
Yes, ma'am. I have, I don't even know if I wait until I know they're interested. What I've done is I'm taking a proactive approach. I think too many times for women and girls, we operate in a fear space. We don't believe we deserve to be at the table a lot of times. We question, we challenge. It's a self battle in the mind most of the time before we even decide to run. And so, because it's usually a very men driven world. And so for me, young ladies like Chanel Love who live here, setting her up to just speak with a vow had opened a door for her to get into YLLNI, youth leader. I don't know the acronym for it, the name for it, but just setting them up to be in a vow, advancing voices of women. So for me, I've really started channeling girls who I see have the gift. I'm like, you know what? This young lady could do it. She may not even be interested in political office right now, but I see some qualities, some characteristics that could say, listen, have you considered? The second thing I do is I bring people who are in office into spaces with me for girls and women. So Sharon Tucker has been in several of my Girls Rock events. Michelle Chambers. I'm trying to create an avenue where they have a very open relationship with women. Courtney Trich has come, that they have a relationship with women who are in these offices, and so they can experience it. And then there's a young lady in my office that works at the township that is considering a run. And so I've really worked with polishing her so that she doesn't have to have the bruises and bumps that I experienced. So thank you, Dr. Overton. Yes, I do that.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to hear you say that you don't wait, because oftentimes I don't think the youth understand what those opportunities are. And so us waiting on them, we'd be waiting forever. So thank you for that proactive approach. My next question is, what has been the greatest challenge for you as women, women of color, in your prospective roles that you were pursuing or that you were elected for? Because oftentimes in the rooms that you're in, or you're often the only person that looks like you. So what are some of those challenges that you faced throughout this process, either before you ran for your office, after, and everything in between? We'll start with you, Ms. Washington, since you're up on my screen already.
Listen, I could write a book on this, and I probably will after I'm out of office. But going into Adams Township, I have to be authentically honest. It was all Republican. They had never experienced a female in the position, and they had never experienced anyone of African American. And so those two things were almost a target for conflict. And so for me, and then my incumbent got caucused on my board. And so it became a very tense space to be in. But, I tell people my motto is to lead in love. And I kept having to say, this really isn't about me. This is about people experiencing someone in something different that doesn't look like them, that doesn't feel like them. And so, I had to learn that when the greater call is beyond you, you have to separate what you sometimes come in when you're mistreated and mishandled. And I am happy to say that in my third year, I can actually say that we are at a great space, but I believe we got there because of the manner in which I reacted to some of their actions. I also think that the power of relationship building and people showing up. Board meetings for townships, people don't really even come, they don't acknowledge them. And so what I have done is that I've normalized it. I have Zooms, we are on live. Even before we went to COVID, we were doing our meetings live. And I have really been aggressive about getting Adams Township taxpayers in the room. They need to understand that local government is important. We only really focus on the big runs, but I tell them local government is what runs your school systems, your AEPs and all of those kind of things. And so I think in doing that, it now is not my challenge, it's my gift. It's become where it's a part of a partnership. Mayor McMichael has just opened himself to me and congratulated. And he's Republican, so you can cross the line, and I think that that's what I've had to learn. So,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Regina. Go ahead.
My biggest challenge when I ran for election was just being able to resonate with all constituents. Being an African American running in a district run, it was difficult because some people thought I was only running for African Americans. So that was tough for me to hear because I was running to help all children succeed, not just African American children. So that was the biggest challenge that I experienced.
Ms. Jones, how do you think, looking back, what would you have done differently now, knowing what you know now? What would you have done differently?
I probably would have allowed others of different races to knock on that door to deliver those messages because some people didn't want to see my face being an African American. So Sharon Tucker, she shared with me, if it came from another race, that was okay, as long as they're able to receive your messages. So I would have done that differently. I thought I had to knock on all doors. I probably would have been a little bit more diverse. You need some diversity. And I just didn't have a lot of diversity to knock on doors while canvassing. And that's just the reality.
Wow. Yikes. Thank you for that. Ms. Kerry Campbell.
Well, I tell you, there was a lot of challenges when I came on board, being the only Democrat, being the only woman, being the only African-American woman. There were things that were said, whispers, a lot of things that the old Sheila probably would have spoke on immediately. There was one incident that, went viral. And a lot of people questioned me about my response or my delay of response. But it took everything in me to be calm, cool, and collected. Not only knowing that the cameras was on, but knowing that my mom could possibly see me turn it up. So I guess having that composure, being able to vocalize what it is that you need to say, without being mean-spirited or spiteful. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you, ladies, for sharing. So some of you have answered this. What advice you would give someone considering running for a public office as being prepared? Is there anything else that you think would have better prepared you for the roles? I mean, doing the research, but what types of community involvement, community service, community engagement would help someone be more familiar with how our local government is ran?
I tell people your network determines your net worth. And I don't mean that in a financial way. We have got to learn to teach, especially young people, to cross the lines. I am unapologetic when I walk in a room. And, and it doesn't have to be a room that looks like me. I'm willing to be uncomfortable, and so I really, really, really teach my Girls Rock students and my students when I even sub-teach. You have to be comfortable in spaces, in places that may not appear to want you there or who looks like you. And that crosses all cultures. And all genders. I've learned that, I went through a vow, and I love this lady. She was from the Yale Institute. And one of the things she taught me, and I own this, she said to me, when you take a picture among government officials, especially males, they set women on the outside. What I want you to do is go to the center of the photo. And if you watch me, I go to the center of the photo. She taught us that. She said, too many times you step to the side. Don't you step to the side. You step in the center of the photo. And so they'll do half circles, you know, and women immediately go to the sides. And she said, stop doing that. And so there's little things sometimes that we need to understand that are power moves. And so for me, that's one of the things that, you know, just little things that I try to channel my energy to make sure that when I'm in spaces, I'm in a room, that you see me and not see me in the regards of the physical and I'm aggressive, I'm here. Just those are things that sometimes they're not used to. Groups of people are not used to in those spaces.
Definitely, definitely. And I always say, just increase your contact. And I think Ms. Washington spoke about that, relevant groups. You know, sometimes you have to blind yourself to other distractions, you know, so you have to structure your decision making, knowing what your next move is going to be. And you're doing this because, you know, I mean, just being conscious of your surrounding in places, things that you're a part of. And so, I mean, just doing as much training as possible, coming from the NAACP family. I mean, that is one of the biggest gifts that's been given to me, is all the training in all of the areas, and just learning more every day, learning more about what you do and how you can bring more awareness to the issues that surround us every day and people that we come in contact with every day, and just joining, I don't know, joining different organizations, clubs, associations, joining the Democratic Party. I mean, I am.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So with the 2020 presidential election, we saw the difference that one person can make with Miss Stacey Abrams, and how she was able to get so many individuals registered to vote. Can you tell us about some initiatives that you've either spearheaded or been involved with to help individuals that are of eligible voting age to understand the power of their vote? So tell us about what you've done in regard to getting individuals registered or educating them about the importance of it. Go ahead, Ms. Curry Campbell.
Well, of course, you know, Black women have been long, loyal voting bloc of the Democratic Party. And the last couple of years, women in politics, Black women in politics, has been a success. It was a success here in Fort Wayne. Michelle, Sharon, Danita, you know, I mean, so we need to understand that Black women have long been the heart of the party and the most reliable and loyal voters. And so identifying those people, giving everybody room at the table, I'm a firm believer, there's space for everybody. And so identifying what attributes they have and bringing those out to make sure that they have all the tools in their toolbox to be successful, and just sharing the knowledge. At the end of the day, that's basically what it is empowering other people by sharing your knowledge. And I just think that local, state, city council, school board, those positions are positions that should look like the community, should look more like people like us. And so we have to empower people with the tools they need to be successful. So, yeah.
I think for me, you know, the key is young people. I know that is what was the game changer for me. I think that the relationships that I had prior to going into office. So I tell people, don't wait till you're running. You need to get an authentic space before you run. My authentic relationships bought me favor. I mean, I had people coming out to walk with me. Sharon Tucker said she's never seen anything like it. She said, Danielle, listen, on average, if I get 5 people to walk, I've done good. On average, I have 15 to 20 twice a week. And so I know, and these were young people, these were parents that I had dealt with when I was at Lakeside 15 years ago. So I tell people the power of relationships. And when I look at Stacey Abrams, I don't care what anybody says, that's what it was.
Right.
She did, she could make a lot of noise. You didn't see her posting every little thing, everybody she had voting. She made a silent assassination of the movement for people. Her focus stayed narrow. She stayed focused on the people who she needed to get registered, and she attacked. And she did not do it with a bunch of social media posts behind her. And so I think I've learned there's a time to be ramped up, and then there's a time to move in silence. And so that's something I mimic from her. The third thing is diversifying your team. As Ms. Jones said, I literally had a diverse team of people. And again, I think it goes back to, I didn't wait till I was running. I've been diverse. So it's who I am. And so sometimes as politicians, we play the game of wanting to add to the team once we in the field. I literally, this is who I am. And so when you come to the table and it is who you are, then that is what will be reflective when you walk this journey. Because trust me, they can find any and everything about you. And so I've just learned that be your authentic self, but make sure your authentic self is who you say you're trying to be in this run, because then it comes out. And so those were the things I think for me that really spoke to my success.
Thank you so much. And again, if there's anyone in the audience that would like to pose a question to our panelists, please feel free to jump in anytime.
I'd like to say something.
Go ahead.
I think it's important for the education piece, but I also feel like it's important to organize all year long, not just on the election year. That is key to me, educating people, doing voter registration throughout those off years, not just on election year.
Absolutely.
And relationships is definitely important.
I used to get so mad when politicians would show up at our church during the season of, no, I'm serious, I did. I used to say, I'm so annoyed because I ain't seen you all year. So I make it my business. I go visit churches this whole 3 years, except during this pandemic. And even during the pandemic, I've done some virtual sessions with people. But that's something that Sharon Tucker taught me. She said, Denny, you don't just show up that year. Shame on them. Because I used to get annoyed when our pastor would take our time because somebody who I ain't seen in 4 years now wants to come and get on the stage. And so I make sure that the things I know that annoyed me when I wasn't running, that I make sure that I do differently. Because that just spoke to my spirit. So for me, I agree with you, Regina. That was one of the things that, like, I really try to be authentic in this thing while I'm not running again.
Exactly. And I think we all come from service. I mean, I've been doing the work, and that's one of the reasons why I felt like I could fill the shoes of Sharon Tucker a little bit. But I've been doing the work, I've been serving. I was born into service. I mean, I've been going to nursing homes with my mom since I was a kid, singing out of the books. And I just think that that is one of the things that some of our young folks is missing. They don't understand the more that they give, the more they'll receive. And that service component, I think a lot of them have missed that. But I give kids the opportunity over and over again to serve and to have them understand that you got to be passionate about something. I mean, passionate about heart disease, passionate about cancer. Find something in your life that that you will be passionate about for the rest of your life. And so giving the kids the tools that they need to be successful is a part of all of this conversation. And how do we get them to the table? By empowering them to work on election day, work the polls. I think the sooner we get folks involved in the political process, the more likely they'll stay with it for the rest of their lives. So giving folks opportunities. Wow.
And being intentional about giving them the opportunity.
Definitely. That's my word of the year, intentional. Thank you.
Mine too.
Can you, Ms. Regina, can you expand on that? What do you mean?
Well, I think it's important to be intentional with young people, lead by example, having them exposed outside of their environment, having them in spaces that they are uncomfortable, but mentoring them to stay in those spaces. Because I think when the opportunity arises, they will be prepared for that opportunity. But if they've never been in the space, then they're not prepared for those opportunities.
Right, right. I mean, even with the summer program we ran through our church, one of the programs we taught them was chess. We taught them Robert's Rule of Order. We taught them about fundraising, how to organize a program. And so those are life skills that they'll use for the rest of their life. And they can always walk into a room and be able to make a motion or be able to ask someone how to give them a quote or an estimate. So giving the young people life skills and opportunities, that Regina and Danita have done an awesome job that with both of their programs that they run with the young people. So yeah.
Miss,
understanding too that young people are never too young to learn and be exposed what we may feel is over their heads.
Right.
And that's the key. And that's where I think sometimes we make big mistakes. We may think, a 14-year-old is not, don't have the capability of sitting on voter registration, helping with things like that. So just being mindful, those little nuggets, it will develop. They will learn.
Well,
wow.
The motto has to be is whatever we do the most of is what will be the greatest at. So if they can figure out technology in the manner in which they do, I tell people my 2-year-old, my granddaughter was 2 when she was sitting in boardrooms at Parkview and everywhere else with me. And so she has a mentality at 10 of greatness already. And so I agree with everything that you said.
Yeah, from the classroom to the boardroom. That's one of our programs.
Ms. Sheila, can you explain what Robert's Rules of Order is and why you feel that that's important for youth to know?
Well, just like I said, from the classroom to the boardroom, for these kids to understand that when you get into the real world, there's order. Things are done decent and in order. Most meetings are handled by action only and a vote only. There's not a lot of discussion. And so having the kids understand working in committees, working in smaller groups, coming out of those groups and reporting out with action, where you're coming back to the group, the whole group, and you're making decisions for everyone else. And I just think that Robert Rules of Order is something that every kid should know, simply because it teaches you democracy. It teaches you how things are fair and not fair. It teaches you about building that team so that you have those votes. And so I think Robert Rule of Order should be in the schools.
Perfect. Thank you for that. So we're going to shift a little bit. With the civil unrest that our country has experienced, is experiencing, can you tell me what you have done to be more mindful of your own biases, so that you keep an open mind when you're serving groups that are from and maybe underrepresented demographic, location, geography, all of the fees. How do you keep yourself in check and be aware of your own biases?
I think experience and exposure. Put yourself in. I mean, I think sometimes you have to just be all in. I told somebody, I remember I was in school and I can't remember, Dr. Ash, I think Ashton at IPFW had us we had to go somewhere that we were uncomfortable or that we had never experienced. And I can't even remember what I picked, but it was somewhere, it was a church that was very different than my church. Most uncomfortable thing I had ever done. And I thought, what are they doing? They're not serving who I serve, you know what I mean? Like that whole experience. But I say all that to say, I think, a lot of times if we can just look, like one of the questions I'm looking at is, it talks about being from a different party. And so many times all we show people on TV is Democratic, Republican, those things. But every time I'm meeting, I'm having to work with people from a different party. But see, we don't give people that experience. We don't show them that there's sometimes compromise. You know, they have a big fire territory going on in my area right now. And, you know, lots of people feel that it's needed. It's going to be more taxpayers' money and all of those things. And so learning, like Ms. Campbell said, learn how to negotiate, learning how to keep your cool when you disagree is what I think is important. The world now has only shown how we get unorderly and we think we're winning. And so I tell students all the time, the loudest person in the room is usually the most afraid. People who can come in and have a civil mind and be calm and speak are usually the ones who can bring order and bring justice. And so those are the tools and things that I have learned to live by. You know, when you grow up and sometimes people say, you know, the aggressiveness is what's needed. No, we have to unlearn that behavior. That there is a place and a space when you can come in a room, own it, and you can say what you mean what you say, and still lead in love, then you have true power.
Yes. I tell folks all the time, especially young people, watch the news. You know, you need to be conscious about your surrounding, what is really going on in your city. You'll be amazed at how many adults don't watch the news, or I didn't know about that, I didn't hear about that. But just reading the local paper, just being knowledgeable about things that are happening in your community, and then following those dots to ask the next question or finding out who can answer that. I mean, people need to understand we're leaving this legacy to these young people. I'm 60, I'm probably the oldest one on the call, but I'm 60, and I'm constantly every day telling young people, I'm sharing this knowledge with you to make it easier for me, because the more I share with you, the easier my job will be. And so I think just sharing the knowledge and making people understand that you have to know for yourself. Just because I know don't mean that you know, and don't trust and believe everything I say. Read and know it for yourself. And so you'll be able to have that conversation. We might not even agree on the subject, but if you're knowledgeable about it, now you can have a conversation about it.
Ms. Regina, did you want to add?
I do. For me, trying to be aware, not to be biased, I try to keep communication open. If there's something that I disagree with, I try to have that conversation with the other party, why they feel that way. And sometimes I don't agree, but I'm respecting that person's opinion, you know, what they have to say. So I think if you're willing to have that conversation, you're willing to be open and accept what they have to say, I think you're going to be okay. But I work with a lot of underserved families. So I learned very early on not to judge people, because it's never what you think it is. And if you go into a situation with that attitude, I think, you know, you'll be better for it.
Yeah, everybody has a story. Everybody has a story. And all of our stories do not begin or end the same, but somewhere in the middle, we have a common bond.
Exactly.
There is something in the middle of our stories that connect us, and finding that thing in the middle is what it's all about at the end of the day. What is the common bound that we can agree to? We can agree that there's no plan B for the planet. We can agree to that, even though we're on different sides of other issues, we agree to that. So finding that common thread that affects us all. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, ladies. Wow. Y'all schooling me. So thank you. There are a couple questions in the chat that I want to throw in before they get lost. There is a current state voter legislation being introduced in several states that's leaning toward voter suppression. Are you familiar with this, and what's your reaction to this?
Well, I can say that the NAACP sued the state of Indiana about voter suppression, purging ballots. There are a lot of things that are happening, not only in the state of Indiana, but all over the country to suppress voters. And so we have to make sure that people understand that you have the power by picking up the phone or writing a letter to your elected officials to let them know that you're concerned about some of the things that are changing. One of the biggest myths in the state of Indiana is that if you're a convicted felon, you cannot vote. And that's not true. And so that is a big issue that we all need to get out there to let people know. As long as you're living and you're not incarcerated, you can vote. You just need to re-register to vote. And so empowering people to let them know that every letter, every phone call that you send makes a difference. And once again, organizing, I think someone spoke about organizing and getting folks together on Tuesday at 1 o'clock. We're going to flood these phones and we're going to call and let them know how we feel. So that activism is so powerful. And yeah, we got work to do. Yeah.
I think my reaction would just be that, you know, it just shares and shows how far sometimes we haven't come. You know, the reality is I think we get comfortable with, you know, that, you know, we from the slave space to now we sit in some rooms, but even though we in the room, are we making impact? And so I think sometimes we have to keep understanding, you know, that it wasn't long ago where women couldn't vote.
Nope.
I mean, I'm just saying, if somebody Googles it real quick, I guarantee you, it ain't been that long.
Okay.
And for young people, I tell people all the time is that you're not that far removed from what was, that what we're reading sometimes in the history books. And so this is an everyday, every year grind. Grit has to happen. And so sometimes I think we just get comfortable with when we get token one. We got one again, don't worry about it. We got, you know, we begin to get comfortable. And I think that we have to entrench our young people and get them understanding that this is a regiment that we have to take on. And it's not just for one race, it's all races. That's what I was going to say. I think the experience of not just the Black child, but every child you know, has to experience what this means. And so in the schools, start talking about voting, start talking about what it means. You know, I did it with Girls Rock. They used to let you bring the machines out. And so I had Michelle, Courtney, Tritch, and Sharon, this was years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, come and speak about it. And guess what? I did it for the girls, but you know how many of my parents whispered to me, I've never voted. And they 35, 40 years old, and they wasn't all Black. And so to me, that spoke to me that here we are, and this 4 or 5 years ago, and these women had never experienced voting. They were afraid of the machine. And so I think those are the things when you talk about voter suppression, teaching people the importance and the power of their one individual vote, period, anybody. So that's kind of my thoughts on that.
What advice along the lines, you know, since the last year murder of George Floyd, there's been increased discussion and conversation and emphasis around diversity, equity, and inclusion. But not everybody wants to engage into that conversation. So what advice would you all give to an individual who's often feel defensive or offended by the recommendation that their organization or them personally create a more inclusive culture?
That's a good question. I'm going to go ahead and jump in. That was one of the conversations that I had with County Council. The question was, how many of you have been through diversity training? And a couple of people said they had. Some folks said they learned from their parents. Unconscious bias is just that. People aren't conscious of it. White privilege is something that people don't understand. They think that you're calling them racist, but that's not what it is. It's just been a history of people not understanding that the color of their skin has elevated them to another level simply because of the color of their skin. We both can live next door to each other. We both can have the same income, but because of the color of your skin, unfortunately, there's been an unconscious bias that have elevated you. So how do we equal that playing field? It will have to be people that do not look like me, that look around in the room and notice that there is no one else in here but us. And they will have to determine, how do we fix this? Because we can't, we're outside, we're not even in the room, but they know that the room is not as diverse as it should be. And so, in a lot of the conversations I had following this summer, Black Lives Matter, with people that don't look like me, is that you're going to have to do the work. You're going to have to be the messenger to go back and explain this to your group, because they're not conscious of how the bias and the color of their skin have predetermined some of the gifts and promotions. And yeah, I might want to stop right there. Yeah.
I think people have to have a heart transplant. I think, and not a physical one. I just think that it has to become a part of your thread and who you are. You know, hate is taught. You know, we see all the time where young people, they may see brown and white, but they literally don't see the negativity of it. They only know what then is fed to them at the tables, dinner tables, church tables, wherever their parents and their life channels to. And so for me, I always tell people, check your heart. That's a heart issue. Are you able to love people past your own experience? And you know, I think media is a second piece. Media portrays a certain race in a very ugly, negative way. And so if my only experience is through the TV and media, and what I see of a certain race is that of what TV produces, then how else am I to see you differently? Because I've not been able to experience you. That's the third thing. I think at times we must force ourselves to cross the social lines. You know, take our kids to experience all white, all black. See, we Black folks will go to an all white event. Very rarely will white counterparts do that. And so my friends, those are the things I challenge. I have a friend that's a police officer. We've had tough conversations over this year. And initially our friendship even shifted a bit. But again, you know, me being authentic with her had her to be able to have a different lens. You know, I have Black sons, I told her. There is no way that I can not feel some kind of way about George Floyd murder.
Right.
You don't live there, you know, that has nothing to do with it. I have a son that I'm scared to put on a hoodie. I have a son that I'm scared that if he gets pulled over, if he don't put his hands in a certain position, if he doesn't sit still enough, that he may not return to me. That is not her experience. And so if we are friends, we got to be able to have those talks. And I think in workspaces, in friendships, once those hard talks happen, even if it's tears, if it's frustration, it can come back to the heart of, but we all authentically love our children, you know what I mean? Like you said, it goes back to we all have a space where we can agree. But if the heart doesn't shift, then we will just have that moment and then we go back to our lives.
Yeah. I mean, just like Black Lives Matter, if you would look at the crowd, a lot of those people were white. And why were they out there? They were out there because they have a blended family. They have Black kids. Their sister is married to a Black man, or their brother has, you understand what I'm saying? And so it mattered to them because now you're talking about their family. So that was a common ground where that, the people that was out there protesting, they felt like now you've hit home because now you're talking about my family. You're talking about my blended family. So
sometimes they not had a children, you know, they may not be of a mixed race, but as they say, family don't always bear your name. Family is who you have learned to love. My friend who is a police officer, I love her. We've been friends a long time. So she don't bear my name. She don't got a Black child, none of that. but you know, we have a friendship. So her experience of eating at my dinner table, encountering my mother, my siblings, gave her empathy that she hadn't had before. You know what I'm saying? So it was tangible. If one of her counterparts killed one of my sons, you know, that would be personal for her.
Right.
So I think if we did that, if we created those friendships, and another thing, I know Chris Dowson's on the line, him and a young lady, I think her name was Mary, did an experience one time with East Allen County Schools where they talked about basically like crossing the line and experiencing how people live differently. I don't even know it, Chris, I'm probably chopping this up, but it was riveting because how people perceive people from different races and different social economics was astounding. Staff was angry because they created a town on the ground, and they lived in a part of the town that they couldn't have access to grass. They couldn't, oh, you should have seen people. Now, y'all, we just acting. This is not serious. But people were angry. And at the end, they asked the question, see how you feel? See how you're mad? You don't have, and those, a lot of people who were white were the ones who were charged up. And you know, a lot of Black people like, we used to this. This is our experience. And so I think doing those kind of things too, as well, especially in the professional realm, it gives people a different experience because most people are out of touch. That's not how they live. So they don't understand that.
Yeah.
I think diversity is important for any organization. However, the most important key for me is that inclusion. You can put a person of color at that table, but if you're not including them, making them feel they have value, it's worthless. So that's the thing that I have been disappointed in. You know, it's okay to get a person of color, but you have to include that individual and value that they bring something to the table.
And I think Michelle Obama said it best. I don't even go to tables that I'm not included. I've turned down several tables because I've learned you will not use my voice to be a token. I'm not going to get a number. And so I can't meet your quota because my voice has purpose. Who I am and what I stand for will arrive at the table, and it's going to come in a manner that I'm not going to be speechless. And so I have turned down tables. And so Michelle Obama, when I went to see her, one of the things she said was, don't cheat yourself, treat yourself. If you are at the table, you are there and designed for a purpose, and you must stand. And a lot of times it makes you unpopular. Sometimes your own kind won't like you because they don't understand how you're having to navigate in order to get justice done. And so I've learned that, you know, if I am invited to a table, if I get to the table and I say, you know what, this chair is uncomfortable. I ain't gonna be able to sit in this chair long. I'm gonna eat. You know, I have learned that I get up very respectfully and I leave. And so I think we have to learn to do that because we will do more damage staying at the table.
Right.
And not getting what we need to give to the people we are designed to serve, then it becomes about us. And that's a whole nother call.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. I had to leave a table, you know, in the last year or so because we didn't have a meeting in the minds. And that's one of the first things when we sit down for discussion, you know, in the agenda. I want to make sure we have, are we saying the same thing? We weren't saying the same thing. And so I repeated what I was saying maybe 5 times. They still didn't get it. So finally at that point, I had to let them know we're not a match, you know, and because I'm not going to, you know, lessen my values. I'm not going to change what I stand for. And once again, I'm not going to be the token one because you need a Black in this space. So yeah, had to do that one.
We can't hear you, Tracy.
I'm sorry, I'm at work and the internet kicked me out. And so I had to make sure I got back in here. So along with that, for individuals, because being an advocate for change from somebody that doesn't look like me is not easy. And so what advice would you give for someone that sees something that's not right, but they don't know what to say, what to do, and how to handle that situation?
I'm giving no excuses anymore. If you see something that's not
Say
right,
something.
you can learn, say something. And
That's
if you don't know how to say something, reach out to someone that can help you say something. So there's no excuses anymore for that.
No excuses. I mean, and I tell the young people all the time, you might not be the spokesperson from the group, but it's one of y'all within the 4-5 of y'all
Yeah.
that could be the spokesperson. So you might be able to say how you feel, and then you let her be the messenger to deliver the message and stay on point. Don't let nobody knock you off your square. If you feel as if you've been wrong, the group of you, find that spokesperson and let them have it. Deliver your message. Make sure your message get out there at the end of the day.
Well, and I think, part of what I learned is collaborative. I think too many times people expect Black women to come in the room aggressive. That's what the expectation is. The more louder, the more boisterous, and we just don't win. Then we become dangerous. I use language that's used when you're aggressive and and so, threaten, that's a word. I felt threatened. And so I've learned that I don't have to be loud. I got to be strategic. I'm very strategic when I deal with confrontation now, because I understand strategy is what will win. And so I've just learned that. I'm very comfortable with strategizing. And I think too, again, building relationships before you come in the spaces. I have just learned that it is easier to navigate when people authentically can know who you are. And it doesn't have to be the person in conflict, but sometimes that person who knows you can whisper and say, hey, you know what? I think you're missing it with her. I think you're missing it with him. And so I think the power of relationships is critical. It is learning those things and how to strategize and how to come to that table. So even when they got to disagree with you, even when they don't want to vote your way, you didn't create it and put it up, so they don't have an option. Like, you didn't make this look so good, they don't have an option.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you this because that's what has happened to me over these last couple of years. I got folks who didn't like me that voted for me because they knew authentically, listen, she gonna do right by people, even when people wrong her. And so I think those kind of strategies will help us get to a better space.
Wow. Yeah. Having a meeting before the meeting to make sure that you got your ducks in a row. Sometimes, I mean, say what you want to say. I'm a firm believer in the meeting before the meeting, because I don't want to get in a meeting and now you telling me how you really feel. Let's talk over here and try to work something out so that we are on one accord once we go into the meeting. So I'm a firm believer in the meeting before the meeting. Some people you can negotiate with.
Good. Last summer, there was a situation where the mayor was approached about the lack of diversity on some of the committees that the city has. And he mentioned that they weren't able to identify qualified candidates of color to serve on some of those committees. And Mr. Glenn Hines provided the mayor with a list of individuals just from his network that are across the city, individuals that live here in Northeast Indiana. Any of you, are you familiar with what the situation that I'm talking about? And
we all kind of played a role.
Yes, you all were at that press conference, and thank you very much for that. Do you know if anything was done with that list, and what was your response to the mayor's comments?
It was something done with the list. We all actually they put an email out to the team of African-American politicians to get the list. So the list was compiled by all of us, of people and candidates, because again, one person, that's what I'm learning too. One person can't do it all, and we miss if we throw our net that narrow. And so I reached out to my network, Sharon, Sheila. I don't know if Regina was a part of it, but there was a lot of us who gave the list. And then we had a meeting and we narrowed the list. So we said, okay, who do we vote and think, So we submitted the names. And yes, initially people were very upset because they felt like once the list was put, boom, get these people on committees. Well, that's not how committees work. A lot of them, it's a vote thing, or they don't have. It's not time to renew the committees, things like that. What we didn't want though, what we wanted to do was answer the call. Don't go public and say that there's not qualified candidates, because we will give you qualified candidates.
Qualified candidates.
You know, and so, you know, we were quick in our response, but to get people on those committees and teams, it's a process, and we respect you to do that. And so at this point, I do know of 4 people who have gotten on the different committee, on different ones. Now, we gave a list of what, Sheila, maybe 50 to 60 people.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So they have way more than what, you know, they have gotten on committees, and several complaints have gone out about that. People have posted saying, okay, they gave a list, I applied, I didn't hear anything. But again, that is how movement happens. You have to expose sometimes. You have to say, we've answered your call, we submitted names, and now what's going on? And you got to stay consistent. You need to know the policies of the committees, know the times when they're up, you know. And somebody said, well, they used to just call their friends and say, we need somebody on the committee, join it. You know, that was the process. Well, guess what? Now they got some order, because, you know, they're going to have to do more than just call their friends. And so I was initially offended. I would have to be honest. But then I said to myself, don't be offended, get action driven. We got to learn to we can be offended, but once you're offended, how are you going to be the change that you want to see? And so that's why we submitted the names, and I showed up at the press conference.
Oh yeah, definitely. With the county, we had an appointment, and I appointed an African-American to one of the boards, being very intentional. There was another seat that there was a vacancy, and I told the young man about it, and we went through a couple of hoops, but he got appointed. So I have 3 that I directly made sure that they got a position on boards here in Fort Wayne, and I'm still working with folks. I know, Regina, you want to talk about some of the, I know Regina's been offered several positions. She sits on the boards with the city of Fort Wayne. Did you want to talk about yours, Regina?
Well, I sit on MOAC. I was on MOAC before we provided the mayor with the list of names, but I have given other individuals information to apply as well. Those individuals have not been called yet.
Can you, Regina, can you tell us what MOAC is?
Mayor's Opportunity.
I'm sorry. Those acronyms I know sometimes are tough.
Oh.
Hello?
Did we lose her? Uh-oh, we might have lost her.
Okay.
I was going to say to that question too, I think part of it is too, is that we want to make sure we get people too who are qualified, but understand in the right role that fits them. Because just because everybody asks me to be on a board, I like to be on boards of interest that I'm passionate about, because otherwise I won't serve well. So that's the other thing I think sometimes too, researching, again, I keep saying this, because then you just become a vote. Yes, 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 and you don't even know what you're voting for. And I tell people, boards, sometimes you're bonded. There comes a cost. There's a, you know, things can happen. You can be saying yes to some stuff, and if you're not conscious. So people that I nominated, I really had that talk with them saying, like, listen, make sure that you understand what you're getting into. And I know I've been placed on several since that meeting, Fort Wayne United Way, Community Foundation, Bright Point.
Nice.
So I'm one of the ones that, you know, they have called.
Absolutely. I was asked by one organization for this list, access to this list. And I did reach out to Mr. Glenn Hines, and he told me that the list was not intended for public distribution. And he gave me some advice, and I was like, wow, that just makes so much sense. He said, you know, if an organization isn't able, within their network of their boards, their staffs, if they aren't able to find qualified individuals that are minorities to serve within their organizations, then shame on them. And after he said that, I was like, wow, you know, and so I went back to that CEO that asked for the list, and I shared that information. She was like, wow, that just makes so much sense. And so, because we're everywhere, individuals that are qualified to serve live among you somewhere, live or work amongst you somewhere. And so, shame on you for not accessing that network and making it happen for your organization. So I just thought that was brilliant.
But I think, Tracy, to say though, here's the honest truth though. They may work among us, but do you have authentic
A relationship, yeah.
I keep going back to that. We can work with people all day, but if all I do is work with you, then I don't see your value.
Right.
Right.
Well,
The value in the people that you're encountering and that you come across. I tell people, I worked in the ISS room at Lakeside. Okay, everybody know what the ISS room is?
Mhm.
But it took people to see my gift and value that even in the ISS room, I was changing lives. And so when Anita Dortch and other people start seeing that, they then prepared me for greater opportunities, but they had to see my worth. And so I think sometimes we can work among people, but if we don't see their worth past these titles and we don't give ourselves the experience of them, then like you said, then it will just be that I work among you, but I really don't see you.
and that's the point exactly. So if you are truly, genuinely interested in expanding your board or your diversity earnestly within your organization, then you do miss that. And so I think that's kind of where he was going with that. Expand, open your eyes, look amongst the resources that you have and develop those relationships to include those individuals. Next question, how has COVID impacted your communities and what you do in your roles?
Wow.
You can't have any conversation without bringing up COVID. So, so how has COVID impacted what you all do?
It's impacted me a lot, not, mentally as well. I consider myself a pretty sane person, but being unable to meet with friends and, mingle with family, it's been very, very difficult for me. Regarding the work environment, it's impacted my work with families because we normally meet with families in person and we have had to do that virtually. It's been devastating to families, trying to juggle everything. And also for us trying to keep clients engaged for a certain amount of time when they're already dealing with mental health. I work in the mental health field. So the families that I serve, they do have mental health issues. So it's been very, very difficult and challenging during this time.
Wow.
It allowed Township to look differently, and I'm enjoying it. We have gone virtual, and we have more people attending Zooms on mental health, on financial wellness, on financial literacy, all of those things, and it has just been great. Normally we get 3 or 4 people who attend board meetings, but now last night we had one with Neighborhood Health Clinic on the COVID-19 vaccine, their team, and we had 25 people on. And so for me, that's a hidden blessing. And it shifted my office. We did have to close to the public. And so we did have to go virtual initially at home. And now the team is back in the office full time, but we still don't allow people in. And so one of the difficulties, I think, again, like Ms. Jones, is just that touchy feel. We have a lot of people who come in who are broken, who are struggling, and we're really used to having the relationship piece of, let's give a hug, let's give a greet. And life, I think, will forever be changed with that. And so one of the things is that we're really working to see how we can still lead in love, but stay safe.
Miss Danita, how are you doing personally with it? I should have asked that. I think Regina shared a little bit, both personally and professionally. How are you personally?
I think the biggest thing is that, I'm about to be real authentic. I picked up a couple pounds just because I'm not moving, I'm not out. I'm just being honest. And it's been a struggle, that I live alone. And so I tell people for a while, I start feeling like, whoa, okay, wait a minute here. So thank God for FaceTime and for Zoom. I had to teach my mom how to do it at 73. And so for me, that's been my greatest struggle, is just balancing, keeping my body moving, keeping my health and my strength physically more than anything, because, again, I'm secluded. You go from a chair to a couch to a bed. Going from walking in the office or going to lunch or walking with friends and family, just haven't been doing that. So I've just gotten back to that. So thank you for asking that.
Good.
Yeah. COVID hasn't been good for me. My dog came up missing May 7th during COVID. I got a new dog here in December. Didn't realize it was going to be such a big task with the puppy. A lot of things that I do is hands-on. I'm a touchy-feely person when it comes to engaging people. For a while there, we were giving out food at the church, and then once again, things start spiking up. And so that was kind of removed. I live alone. And so my mother is 87. I try to stay away from her. I do, for the most part, her shopping online and just leave things on the back porch. I don't even go in her house. I haven't been in my mother's house since, I believe, Mother's Day last year. So, I mean, I'm at the back porch. And so that right there is kind of, I used to press her hair and, just, go in the basement, go upstairs and stuff. But simply because I'm still in the world, I mean, I work every day. I can control the people that's in my space. But COVID has mentally done a lot to me simply because of my mother. Yeah, so that's the hardest part for me.
Wow.
And Tracy, if I could say, because I was disconnected regarding MOAC, but
Okay.
it's the Mayor's Opportunity Advisory Council. And we work on contracts with the city and HR, trying to provide diversity on city contracts for small businesses and diversity within the mayor's office.
Wow. So how's that going?
We've made a lot of progress.
Good. Okay.
Work to do.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for circling back to that. There was a question in the chat. If you had a 1-hour lunch with Miss Vice President Kamala Harris, how would you guide the conversation? That was a great one. Thank you.
I have to get off in a minute, so I'll go first. This is easy for me because it would be about young girls and their empowerment. I am passionate. It is my life's work to equip, empower, and encourage young women to believe they can achieve. That's my mantra. And so for me, I would definitely have the conversation spearheaded on how did she do that? In what ways, despite race, despite poverty, despite a mixed family of culture, despite any of those things that sometimes become barriers, what were the things that she did to navigate? And how does she see the world moving forward from those things for girls? Because, for me, I think too many times girls, again, are just not seen. And a lot of times it's the way that we raise our daughters to believe and see themselves, and we don't even know it because we're oblivious to it ourselves. And so for me, that would be where my conversation would go, and how we can get girls further in politics at a younger age.
Thank you so much. Miss Regina.
For me, it would be who empowered her and how did she stay focused and what are some of the things she had in place to help her get where she got.
Yeah. I think I would ask who left the ladder down for her, because that's been one of our problems. We don't leave the ladder down. We take the ladder up, we go up, and we take the ladder and everything else with us. So I want to know who left the ladder down for her, who helped her excel in with those baby steps to the next, because that's the vision that we need to have young people see, women in particular, is that you have to leave the ladder down to make sure that someone else can come up, because you're going to need help once you get up there. So I want to know who left the ladder down for her. Yeah.
Tracy, can I add to that?
Absolutely.
And I think the other thing is, how does she live past when women and girls don't like you because of your greatness? I mean, I'm 48 and I still deal with this. I'm 48 and I still deal with it. It's
60.
commentary, but it's the facts. And so I tell people, you know, I tell girls all the time, people are jealous a lot of times with me of success that's wrapped up in struggle. They have no idea
Yeah.
what success has cost me. You know,
Right.
they have no idea the success of a township trustee that paid $25,000 a year.
Mm.
But they see it and they only see that I'm the township trustee and that I did that on that income for 2 years in this role. Count your coins. I'm poverty level. The people I'm serving, I was poverty level with them. And
Come
so,
on now.
you know, I try to keep telling people that quit being jealous of something that you don't know the whole end of it. Because I
Exactly.
took that position knowing what it was, but I took it knowing that if I take it, change can happen for other people. And so,
Right.
you know, I keep telling folks, quit being jealous of success that a lot of times is wrapped in a story of struggle. And,
Mhm.
you know, if we could just learn to celebrate each other. I don't have to know your story. I just want to be grateful and happy for you in your movement, whatever level that is. And so for me, you know, that's something that I really preach to girls. Even when a girl gets an award or something, celebrate. Let's learn to love and celebrate them. If they beat you in the race, that's okay. They won this time. And so
Right.
for me, I think I would ask Camilla, how did you do that? Because I can guarantee you that's something that she's had some issue with.
Absolutely. Wow.
Yeah,
Thank
that's success of people. I mean, I think people want to measure our vice president, but there is no measurement. There's nothing to compare her to. And so that measurement is invisible. And so people will start to create their own vision of hers, but her telling her own story. And like I say, I don't know who left the ladder down, but she had a lot of people that worked her through this system. We have an issue right now here in Allen County. Our criminal justice system is broken. There's an opportunity now for us to have someone that looks like us in a position, but because there was no one to leave the ladder down, they've been in this position for 20 odd years and everyone is going around them. So the criminal justice system failed us. We only had one, the first and the last Black judge in Allen County. And so the system failed us. So once again, if nobody is leaving the breadcrumbs or the ladder down, then who fault is it? Who failed us? I mean,
wow.
It's not criminals, it's the justice system. So just thought I would say that.
Ooh, that is a whole different conversation.
Sorry.
I wanted to interject here just for a second. I know Ms. Washington has to leave, so thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insight, your words of wisdom. We also want to, now since we're breaking just for a second, Ms. Joanne, do we want to do the drawing now? And then after that, follow up with any more questions that we might have for the panelists?
I think we can go ahead and do the drawing. As part of participating today, and to thank you guys for joining us, we are doing a drawing for a $50 Applebee's gift card. For those who are here and on the call presently, we're going to do a second drawing. We're also giving participants an opportunity to watch the recording of this event over the next week. So we're doing our first drawing right now for live participants for a $50 gift card to Applebee's. We'll be doing a second drawing next week to allow everybody from today, as well as anybody who is watching it on the recording, an opportunity to win one of two more gift cards to a place that I can't recall at this present time. I can't remember what the other two gift cards were for. but we're giving away 2 additional gift cards. So we can go ahead and do the drawing now for our live participants, and then we'll have a second drawing next week for anybody who is watching it on the recording. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen so you guys can see my drawing wheel here. So everybody should be able to see my screen. I've got all of our participants in the window, including, let me go ahead and throw on our newest participant. All right, and here we go. All right, our winner for that $50 Applebee's gift card is Dion B. Thanks for being here today. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Tracy.
Thanks, Carrie. One additional question. We're approaching the end of our time together. One question that I have, Fort Wayne PD recently announced that they are purchasing additional body cams for police officers. How do you feel? What's your position on body cameras for police officers? Pro, cons, good thing, bad thing? What's your thoughts on that?
I personally think it's a good thing. You know, it's more transparency for the public, and also I think it protects the police officers.
Yeah.
So I strongly support it.
Yeah, I strongly support it also. I guess one of my biggest concerns is storage and access. Even though we have the body cams, where will it be stored? For how long will it be stored? And who will have access to it at the end of the day?
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for our panelists? Well, I want to say thank you so much. Ms. Joanne, do you have any closing remarks?
I just want to say thank you very much to our beautiful panelists who were amazing, full of insight, full of wisdom. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. As the Ivy Tech community, we thank you for teaching us and allowing us to learn. And to our audience members, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate you being here, and we hope you join us next month for our next event. Keep an eye on your emails. Thank you all so much. Tracy, great job. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Have a great week, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Tracy. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you, Miss Virginia. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Sheila. Appreciate you all.